Sai Ram. Once again, welcome all of you to Ananta Vijnana Sampada. Today we are going to have Purpose of Life Part 12. Sorry to say that I could not take the class on Monday. Almost like I am in dementia state. I am forgetting everything. Fine. So today again we will have a recap once again from Kena Upanishad. Because up to what we have studied in Isha Upanishad, it keeps saying that mind is the source for everything, or Atman is the source for everything. But Atman means that Supreme Brahman, who was the creator and who has manifested the entire universe, he only made everything to act and enact. Then when a Paramatman has become a unique entity and his creatures are different from him, then it was the mind which speaks that individual self. My mind speaks, I am responsible for all my actions. Again, we fail to understand whether it is our action or it is the action of the Supreme. So that's what we have concluded in the Isha Upanishad. And Isha Upanishad specifically addressing that it is the only one without a second, that Supreme, who is the cause and consequences even for the Jiva's action. Up to there, we could able to realize to an extent it is correct. The reason is that when we try to perform any such actions, we may unable to achieve what we expected. Most of the time, we take the credits on our head. When anything goes wrong, we immediately blame either others or the Supreme. But how far is that correct? So that is why Isha Upanishad emphasized, never take any credit, whether it is good or bad. Whatever may be your actions or whatever you are undergoing the consequences, all belongs to the Supreme. There, they want to make us realize we are mere enacting instrument, whereas the doer is that Supreme. Fine. Now, what Kena Upanishad says? When an individual speaks, suppose when I speak to myself, for any such of my actions, I will feel it is because of my mind I undergo the process of pain and pleasure. Is it mind responsible for all my actions? Or is it my thought which is responsible? Now what is the mind and what is the thought? Then what all these sense organs? These questions we keep on discussing right from the Purpose of Life Part 1 till now. Up to now, many of you are very clear, something Supreme which exists, some energy which is existing beyond our notice, which is responsible for all our actions and consequences. But how to accept this? Many people deny. The reason is that no one has seen that unseen energy. Everyone realizes, yes, it is within me, and that energy through which I can see, I can speak, I can hear, and whatnot. All this happens through sense organs. Fine. But now what we have to conclude here is, neither we have seen that inherent energy, nor we have seen those of mind and sense organs. Is all these are visible to us? No. The sense organs, that is, sense of actions are visible, but sense of wisdom is invisible and inherent. Now, when I perceive something, immediately I grasp something out of the object, and my thought or my intellect, it discriminates this is what this object is, and it should be named as such. Fine. It is my intellect which is speaking, but I could not see my intellect. I could not see my mind, which is making these differences. So how we can trust that all these faculties which are working within us are real? If they are existing, where they are existing. Similar is the case with that of energy, which is inherent in everyone, still invisible, but it acts through all these faculties, whether it is mind, intelligence or sense organs, it is acting. So Isha Upanishad made authoritatively it is that Brahman, because Brahman no one has seen. And similar, that Brahman who is pervaded everywhere in the atoms of this universe, he is also pervaded in this manifestation of this universe. So all the animates and inanimates who are manifested in this universe are his, and in each atoms he is pervaded, he is existing. Up to there, for every one of us, it is quite clear up to part 11. Am I right or not?
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay, good.
Yes, Swamiji.
Now, part 12. To make more enlightenment into the subject of faculties. Now, whether it is intelligence, mind, sense organs. How one should accept and deny the fact. The fact is here, all these faculties are mere instruments. That is denial. Because they are only instrument. They are not the provocative performers. They are mere instruments. Then who is that behind all this? Who is making you to act or enact? So, Kena Upanishad. Kena means what? Kena means what? So everywhere it keeps questioning. What is that? How could be that? Which one is that? So such a questionable things, when it comes, then only a clear understanding, a clear perception we will get. So in this first and second verse, how it has begin with Kenepshitam Preshitam Manaha. Who is responsible for the mind to work? Kenepshitam. Who is that? Preshitam. Who is giving the authority or command? Manaha, for your mind. So somebody is there who is directing you. Still you are not directed by self. You are directed by someone else. Then Kena pranaha pratamaha pretiyuktaha. It means what? Who is that again that makes the breath to circulate? Pranaha means it is your breath. So then who is that? Kenaha. Who? Pranaha pratamaha. The breath to circulate. Then who is responsible for the speech? That they said, Kenepshitam Vachamimam Vadanti. Vachamimam means the speech. Who makes you to speak? Although we all feel that myself, I am speaking, I am perceiving, and I am hearing. When I do all this, who else can be there? So it is with every one of us. And every one of us are speaking, every one of us are hearing, every one of us are thinking. All these processes are going on. Then why they have to raise a question in Kenopanishad? It is a questionnaire and answer sessions between a student and a preacher, a teacher. So when these question answer sessions have come, this question was raised by the teacher. Can you answer, O student, what all this can be? He could not answer. Again, they said, Chakshuhu Srotram Kavu Devo Yanaktihi. It means what? Likewise, who is responsible for the eyes and ears? This verse very clearly tells how we get distracted and what is that which makes us to distract our attention. Basically, we all concentrate on our work. We try to focus with one-mindedness what we want to achieve the target. But if there is any deviation in our thought or in our attention, there should be something which is probing us to divert our attention. That could be sense organs again. In those sense organs, the two prime factors are the ear, the sound, and next is the eye, and respectively the rest of the sense organs of actions. Here it is only because when we meditate or even when we are in a deep sleep state, just we close our eyes, some sound has been produced somewhere, our attention, even in the deep sleep, we cannot say dream state, a kind of dream state, when we are in a subconscious state, our attention focuses on those sounds. Immediately we react. Where from this sound has come? Immediately we get up. Then we try to perceive what is around us which made this sound. What is that which produced this sound? All these questionnaires comes. If nothing is there, again we calm our mind and we will become quiet. So the Shrotam means the ears. When we hear something that can distract any person and can lead into devastation, it can be possible. Again, the ears are the instruments which can lead you into wisdom. So how you use your wisdom or how you use your ignorance, all this depends on your ears. So these instruments have to be utilized carefully. Because of this, what generally we feel, okay, my mind has provocated me, probably because my sense organs are active. Because of my sense organs, especially the ears and the eyes, which are the two faculties that put me into ignorance, called blinding darkness. It is leading me to blinding darkness. I may need to travel on this path. This thought will reflect after committing a mistake. Immediately, anyone will not apply their intelligence. That is why they say, who is responsible for this? Who is responsible for this? Whether it is mind or whether it is your breath, whether it is your intellectual faculties or sense organs. Now you try to find out who was that for your action responsible for. They keep asking. When we does some mistake, then only we realize, yes, this is mistake I should not do, which is harming my mental and physical state. So instead of that, when I avoid and try to take a preventive measures with a good notion then I can escape all the possibilities of my diversion. When such thought comes, then their intelligence functions. Now we come to know I should not depend on my mind, I should not depend on my sense organs. When we should not depend on that, then intelligence, what is that intelligence? Again they are questioning. That's what the Kena Upanishad says. In this, there is principle of pure intelligence, uncompounded and free, which directs psychophysical organism of a man. This question has been raised by the student. Then what is that which is responsible? Oh my Guru, kindly explain me. He said pure intelligence. Now again, what is that pure intelligence? No one has seen that. Then how you can make it as pure or impure intelligence? Any bad thought comes, it doesn't mean that it is impure intelligence, or any good thought comes, it doesn't mean it is pure intelligence. Then uncompounded and free. Generally, everything is bounded by, it is compound only. If one thought comes, chain of thoughts will be there. Then how it could be uncompounded? Uncompounded only exists with pure intelligence. That what that boy has understood. So he asked Sir, you explain me. Only the pure intelligence that makes the discrimination, right discrimination, which is free from uncompounded mind, which directs psychophysical organism of man. Psychophysical organism. All these terms are being used only for pathological purpose, physiological purpose, but for spiritual it doesn't require. The reason is that when you surrendered to Lord, when you realized I am not that who is performing on my own, all my actions are being performed by a doer who is behind me, who is within me, who is inherent in me. When I realized that, then why there is a question of psychophysical? The psychophysical exists only when a person with full of egoism and perfect wisdom who says, I am responsible, I am the cause for my actions, who walks on the path of wisdom can speak about that. But those who are in the elementary school, they should not speak about the psychophysical status. So in such case, that student posed a question, is it only because of pure intelligence, uncompounded and free of mind, which directs psychophysical organism of a man? Of course, to an extent it is correct, but completely we have to deny this statement. For that, again, Shrotasya Shrotam, who is supporting your ears? It is the ear which is supporting your ear. Now, ear is supporting ear means what? This ear cannot be supported by the ear. Again, it is that Atman who is within you. He has taken a form called ear, and he is supporting your psychophysical organism. These are psychophysical organism, ear, eye, nose and whatnot. That's what here that boy has asked, and the master is also answering. Yes, it is that Atman. Never think it is psychophysical organism which is supporting you. No, those are supported by that Atman who has taken the form of each and every organ, who is supporting. So for ear to hear this sound, as an Atman, he produces this sound and make it audible to hear. Otherwise, if Atman is absent, then your consciousness will be absent. Then how you can hear a sound? You can't. So something should be there which should provocate to grasp. That provocation can be done only by the Atman. Again, that master answers him. Manaso mana yad. Manaso manaha. So being the mind, that supreme Atman being the mind, is supporting the mind. Without him, again the mind cannot perform its action on its own, because again it is invisible and mind is mere faculty, and although it is inherent in the sense means invisible state. So it is within that Atman. It is not outside the Atman. Psychophysical organisms, of course, all these are external appearance. Whereas when you talk about the mind you can't see. Whereas you mind for the words of others, then how that mind applies its logic? It is only purely because of the Atman, who has taken now the form of the mind and supporting your mind to comprehend, to discriminate. Then vachoha vacham. Vachoha vacham means what? Even if I try to speak, I can't. Even many of my discourses from part 1 to till date part 12, many of the viewers might have noticed I have a stammering voice. The reason is that several brain strokes in my life from my childhood days made me speechless. What I feel to speak, what I feel to think, all will be there on my mind, but I cannot express that. If I am expressing, it is only with his will. Otherwise, I am speechless person. So that speech, vachoha vacham, because I completely surrendered, unconditionally, absolutely surrendered to him. Even if I feel like to speak, I can't. Unless he gives that intelligence, I can't speak. I should not be proud, I am very intelligent. No one is intelligent in this world, because the most intelligent, innermost intelligent is that Atman who is in everyone. So, pranasya pranaha. Pranasya pranaha means what? Who is that prana here? Everyone says, I will live for 100 years, I will live for 90 years. Is all this life is in our hands? Not at all. Last time also I explained, there was a doctor who been on the round. After visiting all the patients, made the record for the day. She immediately collapsed in the hospital. And it became viral in the Facebook and YouTube. When a person ceases their breath, no one can know. It is all his will. Without any reason. There may not be any cardiac arrest, there may not be any brain stroke, or they may not be prolonged with any ailments. Still, all of a sudden, a person may collapse. How it happens? Again, it is the will of that Atman. When it times comes, when it wants to depart from this world, it departs. So that's what we need to understand. So that is why it is said, pranasya pranaha. When pranasya pranaha it is there, that Atman to energize you, revitalize you, regenerate you, it is stands as prana, the energy. When it stands, then only you gain that energy, otherwise not. Chakshushya chakshuhu. here, even for the eye, we have seen there are impaired visions. Children's, adults, they have eyes. Psychophysical organism is available in a body. Still, they cannot perceive. Eyes are there. Can they realize that they have eye? While touching, they can feel some organ is there. But when someone tells this is your eye, they will agree, that's it. But could they feel how eye looks like? Whether it is a beautiful eye or ugly, no one, nothing can be discriminated who are blind. They are visually impaired, but psychophysical organism exist. Likewise, unless that energy is not existent in a body or in an atom, that is lifeless state. That's what again they emphasize. Although they are raising the questions, the question has been posed by the student, still the master is answering, yes, you are right, what you asked is correct. Still, who can be responsible for all this? Atman, Atman, Atman. Every time he keeps telling. Finally, when you separate that Atman from all these sense organs, then only you attain the immortality. That's what the verse 2 speaks. Why? Immortality is a state which is completely away from the state of duality. When we exist in the state of duality, we always undergo the experience of pain and pleasure, because of which our mind dilutes. When mind dilutes, that leads into fear, develops failure, frustration and whatnot. So, in order to remove all these and to attain the immortality, the state of immortality, you have to remove all these sense organs. That is why Adi Shankara principles clearly state, I keep on tracing myself. Who am I? Who am I? Finally, I started negating one by one. Whether it is my body? No. Whether it is my mind? No. Whether it is my sense organs? Is it that I? No. Then what is that? Finally, is it that intelligence? No. And beyond the intelligence, beyond the comprehension, if something exists, is that Atman. That's what he said. So, this Atman and Paramatman, who is that Paramatman? That is Supreme. Generally we call it as Supreme. Atman, the individual self, and Supreme Self as Paramatman. Fine. Who is that Paramatman? Now I realized there is an individual self. I could able to comprehend when I negate all these are the cause for my pains or for my pleasure, whether it is a body, mind, sense organs or the intelligence. If I do not comprehend, then there won't be any difference through my mind I can read. When there is no difference, then my sense organs will become inactive, being active. Can you understand here? Or shall I repeat once again?
Repeat, Swamiji.
Yeah. Now you come.
Yeah.
What is that activeness? Activeness is now, my mind is active, now you are hearing, you are listening to me. Still you are inactive through your mind because you fail to understand what I convey to you. Fine? You are perceiving me. Maybe your perception is only on my outlook but not on my talk. Again, your mind is inactive there. Your sense organs are active on one part, whereas your mind is inactive. Then finally, when I am giving the conclusion you fail to realize, at that moment your intelligence is also inactive. Some person is sitting in front of me, moving his hands, explaining something and everything I am trying to grasp, still I unable to. When such question comes, then who is that? It is that prana, it is that Atman, unless it is not there and unless it is not active within you, your mind, your intelligence, your sense organs all will become inactive. So what Adi Shankara said, see, I felt I am doing everything. Am I doing? Is this body is doing? No. Because this body is active because of some other reason. What could be that reason? My sense organs. When they are active, my body is active. Okay. Then finally he made another conclusion. It cannot be my sense organs. Something beyond is there. What could be that? Oh, definitely it is my mind. Unless the mind is not proactive, my sense organs will be inactive. So let me make my mind responsible for this. Then after a while, again he tried to study well. Finally what he realized? No, even the mind is not responsible for this. It is that intelligence which is responsible for all this. Because intelligence makes comprehension. It studies further in depth. When it studies further in depth, it tries to gain all those knowledge which are rooted down. So it is trying to study. Once again, he failed to realize it cannot be my intelligence. Because all these faculties which I use through this body, all this gives only a pain or a pleasure. And that leads me into the state of duality. So the ignorance enters into blinding darkness. Today our Narayan sir was little bit confused. Early in the morning, he just shown me a board where a quote was there. The ignorance enters into blinding darkness and the knowledge entering into the greater darkness. When it is a blinding, how we can enter into greater darkness with knowledge? So he was little bit confused. Then finally he realized, now, what is the blinding darkness? What is the greater darkness? In between these two, how Atman is functioning. That's what we need to realize. Here, clearly explained, blinding darkness means what? Which leads to the state of duality. Like Amavasya and Purnima. New moon and full moon. The new moon is like that when we have the 15 days, our mind will be wavering. It will not be bright. And that will lead into blinding darkness. Some kind of fear in our mind will always be eloped by. What is that? If I perform this action, what would be the consequence? We will not get a clear directions. Whereas in the new moon time, we will be blossoming. We will feel that we are most intelligent. Yes, I can do this. Authoritatively we will say, yes, I can perform this action. Because as the moon keeps on changing its waves to blinding darkness and to the brightness. This brightness has been named as again intelligence. But beyond these two, blinding darkness is what? When it is getting faded. When it is getting faded and getting dark, our life will be gloomy. When we step out from the Amavasya day to Purnima day, that time we always be positive and we will think positively. That time we will be very confident, authoritative. These two states are not permanent. Every 15 days we keep changing our track. That is why they call it, these two states are blinding darkness. One time it is leading you to knowledge, other time it is leading you to ignorance. So with this ignorance, when you enter into blinding darkness. You should not discriminate. Whereas in a deep sleep state or while closing your eyes, could you able to visualize what is there? Bright lights are in front of me. When I close my eyes, it's gone. It is not appeared for me. For others, definitely it is existing. If I close my eyes, neither this light nor this universe are visible to me. Then my mind becomes very calm. Still, again proactive will be there through my mind. Again it will recapture all those events which I have witnessed in a day. When it recaptures, the rethink starts. When I start rethinking, that again lead to blinding darkness. So intelligence should be inactive. As long that intelligence exists, as long this mind exists, mind is the conscious state where you absorb everything, whatever you perceive, whatever you hear, whatever you speak. Whereas intelligence is the subconscious mind or the dream state. If it is active in your dream state, it will lead into delusion again. So you have to avoid these two. So that is why the mind has been named as moon. Intelligence has been named as sun. The sun and moon, when they combine together, mesh together and stand parallelly, that day has been named as Amavasya. So we should not linger our mind between these two. Remove your intelligence, remove your mind. What else exists in you? It is only prana, the Atman. Nothing is existing. So it is not diluted and it is not covered by any delusion. Atma is always free from all this. When it is free, then it is in peace. It is in the state of bliss. That's what here it has been explained. Is it clear?
Yes, Swamiji. Yes, Swamiji.
You said yes. Why you said yes? You tell me now. Or simply listen.
Because now my Atman was working, Swami. I could understand what you told.
Atman
Yeah.
is working. Ramaji,
Yes, Swami.
you said Atman is functioning. Correct.
Yes.
But now the question is, can you see that Atman?
No, Swami, I will not see and I will not be able to see. I accept that. But
Yes.
it is inside me which it's enabling me to even understand what I've been conveyed. To that level, I think I can accept that.
Now that student in Kena Upanishad, he asked the masters, Sir, I have not seen that Atman, I have not seen this mind, I have not seen that intelligence, I have not seen the sense of wisdom. Will they not be responsible for all this? Why especially the Atman? That's what his question is. So now will you blame Atman or will you blame all these faculties?
Only faculties, not the Atman.
Why?
Because that is embodied in me. That me is there. That is not all those things that is inside me is the one that is causing me not to understand the actual. So once I understand that Atman is the one that I need to rely or look at, the other things will all fade away and I'll be in a real understanding mode.
Do you need to rely on Atman?
It is already existing now, Swami. I don't need to rely on it. It is already there.
Yes. So no need to rely on anything. When you rely on something, it means you are in the state of duality. You should not be dependent. You should be independent. Atman is the one which is independent always. Rest, whatever is created through Atman are dependent. So that is why they say Swatantra. Swatantra means completely independent. That supreme only being can be independent, not everyone. And whatever been created through him, whether it is his thought called Prakriti or through Prakriti, whatever the Vasanas means the unity between the Prakriti and the Purusha, whatever has come, those are Vasanas called progeny. Those progenies can be the time and space or this universe or the animate and inanimate. all these are dependent. Swatantra is Paratantra. Swatantra is that supreme who is always independent. Paratantra, she is also equivalently independent, but still she depends on him. That is why that Prakriti, this nature, always depends on that Atman, supreme Atman. That's what the Veda says. Whereas, when it needs to realize that Paratantra, that is dependent one, or the dependent beings, whomever it may be, whether it is a nature or whether it is beings, when they do not want to depend on even that Atman, then they can free themselves. Those who get free from the state of duality are being named as Mukta. So one has to be free from these dualities. Otherwise, they will be in the vicious cycle. So, this Kena Upanishad keep on insisting that one should rely on Atman. One should rely means not here completely rely. You realize that Atman is the cause and consequences for all your actions. Still, it is disassociated. How? That's the question here that further we will study. Adi Shankara, he keeps telling, Asti Kimapi. Asti, of course, it is the only source. Vidvat Buddhigamyam. The source for all this is the mind. Whatever we perform the actions, or whatever we perceive, or whatever we undergo the consequences, it is all Buddhigamyam. It is only because of the mind. It is the source. Undoubtedly. Still, Sarvantram Kutastham. Sarvantram means whatever may be the source. Kutastham, which is inherent, that makes us to realize what? Ajam, Ajaram. Ajam means unborn. Ajaram, ageless. Abhayam, fearless. Shrota, Derapi. Shrotadi, that means the deathless, whatever it may be. Tat Samadhya Nirmitam. It is all because of the intelligence through your ears. Through your ears makes you realize what? You are unborn, you are ageless, you are deathless. Now, it is there, Buddhigamyam. It may be what you perceive, because it is the mind which perceives the sounds. So you believe it is because of the mind I perceive this sound. So I can make it very clear that I exist and I am ageless, I am fearless, and all this speaks through my intelligence. Mind is there. Beyond that mind, there is intelligence which speaks through the mind, which speaks through your ears. Yes, I am there, I am ageless, I am fearless, and I am deathless. So, all this I am what it says, it is Atman. So, the resource is not the mind. Although he said Buddhigamyam, through all this, we realize through this mind. Whereas, beyond this mind and intelligence, Buddhi here, it represents two things. Whether it can be called as mind or whether it can be called as intelligence. Beyond these two, something is existing means what? Atman. So Atman has taken the form and it is representing itself as the mind or the intelligence or the sense faculties. So that's what he said. In the second chapter of Kena Upanishad, now let me conclude very fast. In the second chapter of Kena Upanishad, what they say is, the student asks, if Atman is responsible for everything and rest of the faculties are mere instrument, how can I understand this Atman? there is a small story about this. A father had two sons. He sent to a Gurukulam and he requested the Guru to give them a complete knowledge about the Vedas and the Vedantas. And they completed their course for 10 years. And they spent in the feet of Guru for 10 years. After completion of their education, they returned back to father. They bow their head in front of father. Then father asked, "Oh, my two sons, I think your knowledge is complete." So he asked the elder one, "Who is that Brahman? Can you say?" So he started from Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, and all these Upanishads and whatnot. More than 1 hour he gave lecture about Brahman. Father kept silent. And he asked the younger one, "Oh, my son, can you say something about Atman or Brahman?" He put his eyes down and he kept shut his mouth. Then father realized, yes, who is the bright one among the two? Now, can you say something about this? Who is the brighter one? The elder one, who has given all the Upanishads and Vedantas as an essence about the Brahman, or the younger one who did not respond anything? Why?
I can't give the explanation.
Experience is cannot be explained. Experience what you got.
Please, Smita, Sunita ji, Rama ji, please tell me. What is that? See, you have all knowledges.
Swami, I think it is the second son.
Yeah.
Because the first son gave the knowledge of the Brahman, but the second son could not, let's say, we can know little about the Brahman, but to know the expense, probably it's like, if I see you, if I cross-state that you are Brahman for me, that is everything existing
Yes.
in something. So
Yes, I am
look
Brahman.
at it, the second person being the knowledgeable one, even though he did not speak about it. That is my information.
To an extent, you have come to the right point. Now, what is here? What you know and what you do not know is the one who is realized. What one knows everything and never say, "I do not know anything." Never say, "I do not know anything, but I knew everything, I know everything." They are ignorant. Because Atman, when we keep telling it is invisible, how can you access that Atman? How can you learn about that Atman? How can you make a parameter for that Atman, which is pervaded everywhere, which has no mind, which has no intelligence, but all these faculties comes and exist only when there is a body. When there is no body, it is beyond all these dualities. So the one who knows that Brahman partially and one who is not aware of that Brahman completely is the realized. Okay? So, self-realization. Everyone speaks. I am self-realized. What you are self-realized? In what way you are self-realized? If I ask this question, some answers have come. Oh, in my previous birth, when Lord Krishna was there, I was his Balasaka. I was this, I was that. Like that, all stories they are narrating, and you can see so-called gurus also keep telling, "I am incarnation of this, I am incarnation of that." Okay, if you were incarnation, why you have to say so? There is no need. People will realize on their own if you are that. That is why when you are not completely realized about something, never claim I am that. To know that, first of all, you have to see in everyone the same energy, the same Atman. When you love everyone without any hatred or envy, then only you are a true form of love. You are a true reality person. That state has to come. So Atman is most important. That's what this Kenopanishad second chapter says. Atman is beyond everything. Although it is associated partially in the conscious state of every person, still it never takes any of the consequences. It is not associated with any of the consequences of the actions performed by the Jiva. Jiva through its body. So that's what it keeps telling. So with this I conclude today about we have come to know that Atman is distinct entity, although it is associated partially to learn everything. Now we have come to know it is not the mind, it is not the sense faculties which are working on. Beyond this, all one doer is there, is that Atman, Paramatman. So regarding this, the next story I will tell in the second chapter how a Brahman has appeared in the form of Yaksha. Yaksha means a blade of grass. How he appeared and how he tested the Agni Deva, the wind and the Indra and so on. And what they experienced out of him, this we will discuss on Monday. Okay? So up to now things are clear for you?
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay. So would you like to have one bhajan or shall I conclude
Yes,
this?
Swami. No, we would like to have one bhajan.
Okay. Bring my cashew. ಇದು ನಂದಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸ್ತದೆ ನಂದು ಯಮಹ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ ನಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡದಿತ್ತು ಯಮಹ ಇದಿಲ್ಲ ಇದಿಲ್ಲ ರೀ ನಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿದೆ ನನ್ನ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿತ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲ ವೈಟ್ ಕಲರ್ ಸಿಲ್ವರ್ ಅದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಬೇಕು It's not there. This evening, let us go with हरिनाम. हरिनाम गाते चलो, साई नाम गाते चलो, सांझ सवेरे हरि नाम, साई नाम गाते चलो. हरि नाम गाते चलो, साई नाम गाते चलो.
हरि नाम गाते चलो, साई नाम गाते चलो.
हरि नाम गाते चलो, साई नाम गाते चलो.
हरि नाम गाते चलो, साई नाम गाते चलो.
माधव गोविंद गोविंद माधव नाम गाते चलो.
गोविंद गोविंद माधव नाम गाते चलो.
गोविंद माधव माधव गोविंद नाम गाते चलो. माधव गोविंद गोविंद नाम गाते चलो. हरि नाम गाते चलो, साई नाम गाते चलो.
हरि नाम गाते चलो, साई नाम गाते चलो.
गोविंद विठ्ठला गोपाल विठ्ठला.
गोविंद विठ्ठला गोपाल विठ्ठला.
गोविंद विठ्ठला गोपाल विठ्ठला.
गोविंद विठ्ठला गोपाल.
जय भक्ती विठ्ठला जय साई विठ्ठला. जय पती विठ्ठला जय साई विठ्ठला. जय पती विठ्ठला जय साई विठ्ठला. माधव गोविंद गोविंद माधव नाम गाते चलो.
माधव गोविंद गोविंद माधव नाम गाते चलो.
गोविंद माधव माधव गोविंद नाम गाते चलो. माधव गोविंद नाम गाते चलो. हरि नाम गाते चलो, साई नाम गाते चलो. बस. Can I conclude this session? Okay. Thank you. God bless all of you. Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. கீழே இருக்கு finish.